And we're
clocks,
going.
people.
Oh, and we're going. If we're going, then we're going.
There
Then
we
we're
go.
here. Then we're here. Now we're 8. Lucky number 8.
And we're lucky number 8 live.
Hello, internet.
I-
We're here
yeah.
live on the internet, celebrating the Chinese New Year. Hold on, could I say it right? Gung Hai Fat Choi. Is that no?
Gong Hei Fa Choi. or
Hey,
Gong-
Gung
Gong
Hei
Hei
Fat Choi. Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Welcome everybody.
ready.
We're here. We did it. We're here to celebrate.
Everyone's-
We're all wearing red.
Everyone's red.
Yeah, I was like,
Everyone's
I
missing red
pulled
right
out pretty much the only red thing I have in my closet. Oh no, it is not AMD Day. That's funny. That would be funny. But no, Willis brought in a bunch of goodies, like red envelopes. Except for this envelope,
they
it's
have
blue.
But it's cute. I was like,
I'll give it a pass because it actually has cats on it. So
I knew Adam would love that one. So
also these gold coin candies. Except for what the hell is this? This is not a coin. This little, it looks like
It's
a hat
ingot?
or
ingot. Yes,
yeah.
those
Ingot.
are gold ingots.
I
Gold
know.
ingots.
Come on, like who? This is not a coin. Did they actually? Yeah.
We actually used to use ingots. That's what it's representing.
I know, but
Oh my
like
God.
what a weird little like thing to make as a something you put in your pocket. You're like, oh sweet, I got a pocket full of ingots.
I don't think they were using
That's-
pockets for that.
That sounds more burly and impressive to me.
I mean, that's why your
I don't-
jeans have rivets, Adam. That's so they can hold the little nuggets of gold.
See, I like coins. They're flat. You can stack them. You put in your pocket. It jingles. Anyway, hello, welcome. We're here. It is Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. I will say that we were just. I saw everybody in the chat talking about. Oh, hey, here they're taking bets on when we were going to go live. We were ready. I just want to note we were ready at 10:34, and I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's push it live. And Willis was like, "Hell no, we're waiting till 10:38. I don't care what."
Because you wanted to start at, well, no, not that you, but when you were ready, it was at 10:34.
Yep.
4 is not a good number, by the way. 4 is bad juju number. You should never start at 4. I was like, let's go lucky number 8. Let's go fortune number 8 or 9.
So all those people who were taking bets, kind of got screwed over. If you would have taken 10:34, then yeah,
We need a good
missed
year.
out.
Yeah, we have a good full nerd year. Can't start at 4.
No, always good years. Please,
we
good
have,
years.
and we have 5 people here. No, 6 people here. Is 6 an okay number? Yeah.
6 is a good number.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Very good.
Ziv says 4 is his lucky number. Friend of the show, Ziv. So, well, welcome. Davina,
me too.
CR Pole, Skeet Sayer. We got all the friends of the show. Byron, Murray's Tech Time. I love Murray's Tech Time because that's my time. I'm a fellow Murray, even spelled the right way. Do you also get? I think I've told people here. Every once in a while, people will mistakenly say my name is Murphy. I want to know if Murray's
like
Tech
from
Time.
RoboCop.
No, just like because I think people see the MUR or the MU. Or maybe even the MUR and then a Y at the end, and like so many times people are like Adam Murphy, and I'm like, I mean, I guess close, but no, like yeah. So it's surprisingly amount of times in my life where I've gotten Murphy. So
Makes me think of those cool articles that you see on Facebook or social media and stuff, like your uncles and stuff always pass it around, where as long as letters are there, as long as the 2 end letters, the beginning and the last letter are the same, and all the other letters in the middle are scrambled up, your brain can usually go through reading it no problem.
right, yeah. So Alan Murphy, Liquid R says that would be funny. Yep, that's that should be my pseudonym or my pen name. Alan Murphy. No one will ever know that it's me. Anyway, yeah, we're here to talk about some fun stuff, some not fun stuff. I've got a couple show and tell items too. I'm going to show off here. But yeah, I think we just get started. Everything running okay on your end?
Yeah, everything's good. Everybody's in the chat.
All right. Let me bring up the notes. All right, cool. We ready?
Yep.
In this episode of The Full Nerd, we talk about the Cable Mod recall and potential changes to Windows. Welcome, everybody, to episode 290 of the Full Nerd, PC World's premier PC hardware podcast. I am your fill-in host, Adam Patrick Murray. I am not alone for this episode. I have some friends with me here. First up, we have Brad Charkis, who's fresh off of vacation day yesterday. Brad, how you doing?
Still a little bit hungover, but otherwise okay.
Yeah, from the festivities, the American-based foosball, as we call it. Also on the line is Elena Yee, who also watched the football game, right?
Actually, I was a very bad 49ers fan, and I only watched the scores on my phone because I had some other Lunar New Year plans, and that was really stressful.
That was stressful. Also on the line is Will Smith. Will, were you stressed out by this game?
Look, I have a daughter who likes the Chiefs. I have a sister-in-law who likes the 49ers. Okay. I'm pretty ambivalent to both teams. Yeah. So I just enjoyed some good football. It was a good football game.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of garbage food too. So really got in there.
Yeah, that's the best part.
Cheese.
That is the best part. Speaking of garbage food, Willis brought in a spread of garbage food. Hi, Willis. What is this stuff that you brought in today?
Delightful food. What you talking about?
I don't know. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's sweets. I meant sweets.
Yeah. Well, if you say something, bad. Adam just repeats it. Is what I'm hearing. So.
Well, Adam earlier showed up the gold ingots, and then if you hold up the red candy, those are the. It says Lycee candy, so these are like the red envelope candies, which is just milk candy, and they're very delicious. You should. I don't know if you tried it yet. But yeah.
No, I haven't tried it yet. But so if this is supposed to be a red envelope, then that means should be money in this, right?
Yeah. So the candy inside is money.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Nice, sweet. You can suck on some sweet money.
Yeah, and just want to say hello, everyone. Gong hei fa choi, and wish everyone just the happy Year of the Dragon. Wish everyone good fortune, prosperity, good health, and most importantly, good eats.
Oh, good eats. Yes, good eats. Love it. So yeah, we got some treats here, some dried fruit. I'm definitely going to get into that. Before we get on with the show, though, I realized last week when we introduced Will Smith as kind of helping us out for a bit while he's in between jobs, I realized there are people here who don't know who Will is, who aren't as big of a fan as I am. So I didn't properly introduce you. So I want to take just a quick second. Will, kind of tell people who you are and your background.
I'm a guy who wrote a nasty letter to this new website called Ars Technica in 1998 about their BOS coverage. And then they said, well, if you think you can do better, why don't you come in and do it? So I did that for a while. I ended up reviewing video cards for them. I think I did the GeForce One reviews with Ken and John over there way back in the day when video card reviews were a new thing. And then I ended up going to Maximum PC where I met Gordon and worked with John Phillips and Catherine Stevenson and a bunch of folks that have now been embraced by the IDG fold over the years. And I left Maximum PC in 2010 and started a site called Tested, which we ended up selling to the Mythbusters after a few years, and worked with the folks at Whiskey Media, Giant Bomb, and those guys, and then spent the next 3 years working with Adam and Jamie from the Mythbusters and making videos about cool emerging technology like VR and 3D printing and drones, and before I decided to go out and start a VR company, and from making VR, I went into making games. I spent the last couple of years working on a game called The Anacrusis with Stray Bombay. So that it's almost as if I've been interviewing with people and I've gotten really good about telling them a little bit about myself in a very short period of time over the last several weeks. So
you are looking for a full-time job. If anyone wants to hire this man full-time, definitely hit him up. You've got a unique skill set that is unmatched by a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit of being an ex-journalist and editing Gordon for 10 years is that you get really good at editing.
Gordon doesn't need
and
editing. What are you talking
Gordon,
about?
Gordon
Everything
needs
he
a
spits
tiny
out is
bit of
pure gold.
editing, just the tiniest bit. But yeah, you get good at communication stuff, and then I've collected a bunch of other skills along the way. So I'm the video game people call me T-shaped because I can do comm stuff, but also a bunch of other things.
And
So,
randomly, just throughout the day, you just like T-pose, and people are just like, "Oh
that's-
yeah."
Well, that's the main thing the T-shaped person does. Is they're the model for the rig for every character in a video game. You just have to stand like this with your arms out for 3 hours while the animators and the technical artists figure it out. So.
I love it. But yeah, so yeah, you kind of alluded to it, but yeah, there's a lot of people. If people don't know, there's a lot of people who used to work at Maximum PC that work now at PC World. Elena, you did, but official Xbox Magazine as well. Catherine Stevenson, John Phillips, Gordon. Am I missing somebody? Oh, Mike
Brad
Brown.
used to write for them.
That's freelance there for
Brett
years.
freelance for us for years.
All right, yeah. So
And Elena, I think you started right after I left, right? Just to like 2010,
Probably.
2011 or something like that.
I started at Future right after you left,
Right.
but then I didn't immediately go over to
The dark side.
I was actually self-propelled because what would happen is that I'd walk by the Maximum PC part of the office and I'd be like, "Oh, what's that PC?" And Gordon's like, "Let me tell you all about it."
Hell yeah.
And eventually he actually poached me from OXM because he's like, "Would you like to be our managing editor?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I'm pretty happy with my team."
Well, yeah. So somebody in the chat, wasn't familiar with your background, and then also why it's a harmonious thing that you're here. And yeah, so I wanted to cover that. It is harmonious because obviously, you go way back with a lot of us on the team. I will say this again. Somebody joked, but you're not taking Gordon's seat. Gordon's seat is always here, firmly in the host chair. And
There's an ejector switch right underneath me. As soon as Gordon's ready to come back, I just get fired up into the ceiling.
No. You're here to help out. We need some help making some videos. So we've been doing a lot of planning. We got some videos upcoming. I'm excited about that. But for people who don't know, I mean, I've followed you for a long time, long before we met. So I'm excited to continue to work with you. So.
Well, and I came in when you guys were just starting the Full Nerd. I was the second guest, I think. I went back and looked when we started doing this because I came on the second week you did it, and it was a little baby podcast. You were like,
"Oh man,
we know we're going to talk about PC stuff, but like you're just finding your path."
It wasn't even live yet. Yeah, because I don't think we went live for maybe 10 episodes or something like that. Yeah, it was pre-recorded.
There's like episode 8 or 9.
Yeah, something like it. Yeah.
Well,
so.
Like live podcasting, I don't do live podcasting. Like it's way too high stress. When you're like, "Oh, I need to think about this. Do I need to look something up? I need to look something up. I'll just cut this out." We can't cut this out in post over here. It's terrifying.
I mean, I guess you could use the YouTube tools after the fact to cut stuff out.
It's cheating.
Yeah, it's cheating.
It's cheating.
We also got a $5 super chat from friend of the show, Brian. Byron.
Oh, so you did it. You did the thing.
Yeah, not Brian. Byron Goodman. I did do the thing. Alan Murphy did the thing. Asked how Gordon is doing. I did text. Actually, I was texting with Gordon a bunch yesterday about this cable mod thing we're about to talk about. But also, wished him a happy New Year, Lunar New Year, and. Yeah, I mean he's holding in there. Hopefully, have some news to share. And it's been a bit since we've had him on the podcast, so I'm hoping to get him on the podcast soon. But he's hanging in there, doing what he needs to do, and excited to get back to it when he can. So hopefully more news later. So and I'll tell him the good wishes. But speaking of cable mod. This is something he's definitely been following. Let's get to our first segment here. The cable mod 12-volt high power adapters have been officially recalled. This has already been kind of in the works, but specifically, let me go over here. There's a link in the description to the Consumer Product Safety Commission posting about GPU angle adapters being recalled due to fire and burn hazards. This is marked as a voluntary recall. A voluntary safety recall. That just means it doesn't. Voluntary means that the company initiated it, saying, "Hey, we're voluntary recalling it," versus the CPSC coming in and saying, "Hey, you need to recall this product." So, Brad, do you have you been keeping up on this story?
Yeah, it's like the most messed up irony of all time, because these adapters came out and CableMod pushed them very, very hard all over social media back when the 49 RTX 4090 adapters first started melting. Because people were speculating that it's because the wires were coming out too far, push into your side panel, and it was causing that to come loose with the default configuration. So CableMod put out these adapters so you could move around where your adapters go. And ironically, there was really only the initial handful of RTX 4090 connectors that got burned. NVIDIA, I think, said they were in single digits at one time. Low teens, something like that.
And it was mostly the adapters that went from 12-volt high power to the standard PCIe power plugs, correct? Was there any native 12-volt high power cables?
I think there might have been one, but they figured out quickly that it was just because of the connection, like how well you seated it. And after that, they pretty much all went away. I would just run the numbers. If these only got put on 4090s, that means this destroyed, because the CSPC report says it's cost $75,000 in damages. That's 46 4090s already.
Well, they
so
said 200 claims though, so
okay.
Somebody's not getting the full price of their 4090 back, is what my thought was.
Yeah, on this,
you could also get it and throw it on a 4060 or whatever too. If
That's
true. True. Yeah. So the details under here. Once again, I linked to the CPSC article. There is a link, or I'm sorry, not article, but listing. There is a link also to the recall page over on CableMod, which they help spell out a lot of stuff and provide even more things that you should get into. It says the recall date, obviously the 8th. The remedy is a refund, and the specific products are the CableMod GPU angle adapters version 1.0 and 1.1, because there was an update that they kind of CableMod themselves was like, hey, you can get this new update. The update had problems as well, so the CableMod has self-reported about 25,000 units in the wild, and the description further down, the incidents description says the firm has received 272 reports of adapters becoming loose, overheating, and melting into the GPU, with at least $74,500 in property damages claims in the U.S. So that's the firm. CPSC has received those reports. There could be more reports. Obviously, there's people who haven't reported on it, or maybe not fully understanding it. I should also say this is in the U.S. So this is a U.S. agency. Whether there's going to be something else in other parts of the world, we will see. But this is just a U.S. agency claiming it. Once again, this was initiated by CableMod. They completely understand. They already have kind of progress or process in place, and they do say that if your GPU was damaged in this, they are doing right by the owner, and kind of dealing with those situations where it arises. And has anybody heard of anything at this scale before? Have we seen anything in like the PC space where it's like, hey, something was like obviously wrong and could lead to a problem, so much so that there's an official government recall involved?
Go ahead, Brad.
No, there's been plenty of things in the past.
There?
Like there've been HP recalls, all kinds of power strips, all kinds of different stuff.
Okay,
it does happen.
H1.
Oh, the H1. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
forgot about that one.
Those exploding Samsung phones.
I just meant in the PC space specifically.
There's a lot of laptop batteries in the early days of LiPo batteries. There were a lot of battery recalls because you'd get even I don't know if Apple ever did an official recall, but even like the early Ultrabooks, you'd see a lot of like, hey, if your keyboard stops working or the G key gets stuck all the time, you got to send it back in because it means you got a gaseous battery in there, which is never what you want.
Bad.
It turns out. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely, if you have this adapter, if you know somebody who has this adapter, please let them know. Part of this discussion is to just get the news out there and make sure that people are aware that is something that needs to be addressed for sure. Once again, there's more information. We have it linked in the description. There's both articles. There's plenty of coverage. I actually think we have an article on PC World as well, kind of covering it. So.
Brad, you may know this. Gordon was always the one who handled this for us at Max PC, but I think the reason you involved the CPSC in this is that there's statutory requirements for like resellers where they have to notify people who've made a purchase of this. So like if you bought one of these from Amazon, you'll get a note from Amazon that said, hey, the thing you bought has been recalled, which means that like CableMod may have sold these to people that they don't know that they sold them to because they sold them through third-party sellers, and this will like be, because it's an official CPSC recall. This isn't like the level of lawn darts where it suddenly is illegal to sell these on eBay or whatever because they're so spectacularly dangerous. But it does trigger the like if you bought these, you'll get an email and it'll have the instructions on how to deal with it. Which is the benefit of doing it. Like that's why they do the voluntary recalls on this stuff, is my understanding.
Yes, that's my understanding as well. So hopefully our understandings are correct.
Yeah, look, if it's wrong, Gordon will let us know at some point.
Well,
Gordon knows the deepest intricacies of the consumer protection system, and it's hopefully impressive.
Yeah, well, he always did the watchdog column, so not only he knew the lawyers, he knew the regulators, and everyone in between. About what happens when something goes bad. So
yeah, we've talked about for years. Actually, he has a specific lawyer that he used to work with for the column that he's talked about like maybe getting on the show and kind of covering some of this stuff because it is an interesting kind of topic. Overall, I will say, and I did clear this from Gordon, so I can say this. As we were talking about this yesterday and going over the details, typical Gordon fashion, him being the troll that he is, he says, quote, "I need to get like 4 of these adapters now. Daisy chain all 4 together." He said the same thing about the H1. He's like, and then he always planned on doing like a full PC build of all these like
disaster
recalled,
build.
Disaster build, because that's just who Gordon is. That's why we love him.
Well, I mean, it's when the IBM 75 GXP started failing and they had the lawsuit and all that. The first thing he did was go to every workstation in the lab and collect all of those hard drives because he was like, "I'm going to put them all on a machine. I want to see which I want to run a death pool on them basically and see which one ends first."
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But yeah, so. One of the bigger discussions around this is that, and I've seen it in the chat even today, a lot of people have been like, oh, well, it's almost like the adapter itself is a crap design. To be clear, this is about the CableMod adapter, specifically not the 12-volt high power adapter. There's definitely people who are like, oh, I'm never touching that, but I think this is at least, we're the 4090. Well, I guess it originally launched with the 3090 Ti, the adapter, right? Yeah. So the 4090 was kind of the first time people were reporting problems with it. So that was a year and a half ago? When did the 4090 come out? Maybe
4090 came out in October, 2 Octobers ago. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's been some time. There's definitely been talk about this is a crappy plug. They should go back to the drawing board. PCI SIG has updated that 12-volt 2x6. So there has been a small revision to it. But Brad, what's your take on the adapter as it stands right now? Do you still think it's a crappy adapter that nobody should use it and everyone should run scared for the hills, or have we finally had enough time that we're seeing there was problem with these CableMods ones specifically, but it is not a widespread problem? Where do you fall on this?
I find it like. This is the first recall I can remember where this was released as a specific fix for what was thought could be an issue, and it wound up causing the actual issue in way greater scale. And that sucks. But that being said, CableMod has been extremely open about this. This is making headlines because the U.S. government just got in on it. But CableMod's been working on this and being open and public with this for months. They've released updated revision of the hardware itself quite a while ago. Everything should be good to go from this point forward. Cable Mod has such a good reputation. The fact that this came out so quick after the 4090 melted cables came, I'd be willing to give them the benefit of doubt. I wouldn't shy away from Cable Mod if I was looking to make a badass custom PC with, the fancy cables and everything next time around.
Which it bears pointing out that Cable Mod does offer different 12 volt high power adapters. These aren't part of those recall. This is
No.
the specific right angle one. So
Yeah.
like I think that also points to something. I mean, if it was a widespread issue with the 12 volt high power adapter, regardless of what kind of thing you were doing, I think it would be involved in this. But this is a specific product line, right?
I mean, and if these were melting, if these were melting in scale still, like if there was a fundamental problem with the connector that hadn't been solved by this point, we would know about it. People's cards would be dying. You'd see people posting about it all the time. It's like, it's the grousing about this feels to me like, they'll just a standard, good old fashioned resistance to change. Hey, it's something new. I don't like new things. New things are scary and bad.
Well, I mean, to be fair though, if you're going to spend over $1,000 on a GPU, that you don't want even the slight possibility of it melting. So I could understand some people's worries about it.
I mean, but it's clearly a faulty it was a bad design because the people were able to plug it in completely, right? Like that was the fundamental problem on the 12 volt connector. And NVIDIA and the OEMs work together to figure out a solution that minimized the problem for people to the point that we don't hear about it anymore. It doesn't seem to be happening anymore. And it's like everybody that melted a card, as far as I'm aware, was made good. So, it was a bad time and it sucked, no doubt. But like, it's not like it's not like it's a Corvair. Right. It's not like you're going to do a 3 mile an hour rear end on somebody and the front of your car is going to explode in a gas explosion because the gas tank is in the front of the car. I can't remember what the deal with the Corvairs was. All I know is Ralph Nader didn't like them a lot and they exploded. That's the gist.
Yeah, Gordon's the car guy. So yeah. But Elena, are you cautious about this? How do you feel about the adapter, or not this Cable Mod, but the 12 volt high power cable specific or plug?
I mean, so I see Will's point about how new things can, people get maybe afraid of new things. But I think like when you start hearing about the possibility that user error can have such a large impact or consequence, to me, that does feel like a not entirely well thought out design. Because people always make mistakes. Like that's just what it's like to be human. So I'm surprised because there also obviously have to be cases where people didn't plug in other connectors and it doesn't fry their machines. So to me, that also seems like there's something to be looked at here. Is it worth getting on an outrage pony and riding off into the sunset? Probably not. But I think it's worth at least bringing to your attention and, talking about it and trying to get a fix in place where it could be as simple as coloring them a different color so that you can literally see that there is still an issue.
Yeah.
But I would hope to see an actual fix overall so people don't have to worry about that so much, because not everybody is plugged into the scene the way we are. So they're not always going to know these little tricks and tips about PC building or how it changes from gen to gen or this particular line of cards or, whatnot.
Yeah. And I do feel like at least for me, I mean, our early days in doing a lot of GPU testing, but I have been doing a lot of GPU testing in the past, 3 months at least. And so I do have a native cable. I think it's also dependent if you're using the adapter. I actually have never run the adapter since I've been doing this stuff. I have native ATX 3.0 power supplies. And so I've been doing a lot of insertions. I've been fiddling with it a lot. Luckily, I've never had any problems. I feel like a lot of people in our space who deal with a lot of GPUs, like a Jared Walton or Steve, anybody who reviews a lot of GPUs probably would have run into something because they're the most high use case, right? You're using a lot of GPUs, you're inserting it a lot of times. That something would have come out around that.
Well, but to Elena's point, those are the people that are going to know what know to look for. They're going to know to feel the click, right?
True.
Like they did make adjustments in the connectors after the initial spate of those meltdowns, as I understood it, so that if you bought an early card, you might still have one of those. But if you bought one of the later cards, then you should have had something that addressed the initial problem, whether it was by coloring the ends of the thing or making the click easier to click into or whatever the fix was. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't. We haven't heard anything official from PCI SIG about future updates, but I do wonder once there are new GPUs coming later that there may be more updates to the design. Maybe a different kind of like locking mechanism, things like that. So I'm curious. Hopefully PCI SIG is not done and been like, okay, cool, now everything's good. Because
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, go for it.
Oh, I think the part that I'm confused about, because I'm not as plugged into the GPU side of things, no pun intended. Is like what fundamentally is so different about this spec that it even allows this to happen? You know what I mean? Like, are they ever going to address that part of it? Are they going to actually, bring the tolerance or whatever up to a level so that it doesn't even be a problem anymore?
They're already working on it. I agree with Will. I think this is something to not even worry about anymore. I think that initial 6 months sucked, and these adapters are a fallout from that kind of a thing. But I think they've already the 12. I always forget the name now. There's not just 12 very high power. There's also like 12VX2 or something like that now.
12 volt 2x6.
Yeah, that one adjusts some of those dimensions. It's already being fixed. NVIDIA had them, I think, by the 4070 came out. It might have been the 4070 Ti. It was the 4070. They were already making adjustments in their design. Like, it just took being out there live in the field and seeing that, hey, there's a very small chance of this being able to burn down. We need to fix that to keep that from happening. And I'm actually impressed at how quickly the industry did manage to turn it around, because you never hear about this anymore. So,
yeah,
that's kind of my overall opinion.
And like, we didn't see a CPSC recall of those 12 volt, the initial 12 volt adapters that shipped, right? So clearly there hasn't been. If this had been enough of a problem to enable the regulatory stuff, then they would have done it, because it's the way that you avoid having warranty claims and spending a lot more money there's a formula, right? This isn't Fight Club. If the cost of the recall is less than the cost of the litigation that spins off of the recall, yeah, well, okay, fair.
Sorry,
but yeah, like if they're gonna have to spend more money by not doing the recall than by doing the recall, they'll do the recall every time. So clearly they didn't cross the threshold in warranty repairs to deal with the problem in the traditional recall sense. It's the classic thing of, hey, now that Reddit is basically the message boards for the entire internet, and when you search for something, when you search for melting power connector GeForce 4090, it takes you to this thread on Reddit, and then there's like 300 people in there saying, man, mine did this too, it's really bad. Those could be the only 300 people in the entire world. We have no way. It could also be a 1/10% of the people that had the problem. We have no way of knowing. All we know now is that it isn't happening anymore, so they've clearly solved the problem.
I mean, and specifically with this cable mod adapter that is getting an official recall, the official numbers on CPSC they're saying about 25,300 units in the wild, and they specifically have had 272 reports of the adapter. So even then, I'm not good at math. I'm not even going to try, but that's still not double digit percent. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So whatever that is.
Or no, it's a 1%. It's either 10th or 1%. I can't remember how many decimals to move.
Yeah. That's not my job here to do math.
It's 1%.
Oh, hold on. Oh, this just I'm getting reports. Breaking news. I have a pile. Speaking of GPUs that do not have 12 volt high power adapters, I have a pile of AMD Starfield bundles, and it is happening.
It's happening
right now. You can go over to the link. There's a link I'm going to put in the description, but there is a link to a giveaway that you can get in on. Sorry that it actually happened during talking about the actual important stuff, but let me find the link. There's a link. You can get over to a Gleam.io page.
I'll send it.
Oh, you got it? Okay, thank you. The Gleam.io link, there we go. Willis put in the chat. Thank you so much. You could enter to win one of these 5 Starfield bundles. The giveaway
Show the
is
nice people the card.
yeah. Let me open it up, and hopefully I don't throw it on the floor. But we got.
You got it? Yep.
Each bundle comes with a Starfield themed box with a CPU in it with the AMD Ryzen 7 7800 X3D, so amazing gaming CPU. But not only that, we have a limited edition Starfield themed Radeon
So
RX 7900 XTX, so the top of the line stack. Oh, this one's not open, so sorry. Whoever wins this one is gonna. I'm gonna open it.
Not
just
mint
so I can,
anymore.
Yeah, it's not mint anymore. I'm
Read it.
sorry.
Now I don't want it.
Yeah, now you don't want it.
I want one of the good ones.
Yeah,
Adam.
I'm sorry.
You know what though? Adam has done everybody who can't open mint packaging. He's done you a favor. Now you have to use it.
Yeah, now you have to use it.
There's
'cause
no
this,
barriers anymore to you using it.
this is an awesome card. Cool design. Regardless of what you think about Starfield, this is like an amazing design. I love the look of it. Obviously, at the top of the stack of the Radeon line. So yeah, this you have to read the terms and conditions. This is only for the U.S. and I'm sorry, it's
Continental.
residents of the 50 United States, including the District of Columbia and Canada, except Quebec.
Ooh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Quebec requires skill
Sorry.
questions. It turns out you can't have Quebec ever. They have weird rules there.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you
Quebec.
have to be over 18. Sorry, I worked with the lawyers for a long time trying to, get this worked out. A lot of this is lawyer stuff, so I tried to hit as many people as I could, but some of this is just lawyer stuff.
Adam also hates the French Canadians. Sorry, Quebecois.
Sorry about that. No, I don't hate you. It's wrong. You're wrong. It's lies. But yeah, you can get in. There are multiple ways to enter. It is open right now. I have one of the ways to enter is a little question. I'm curious to see how people listen to the Full Nerd. So there's a little questionnaire in there. There's a link to review us on Apple Podcasts. The only reason why I put Apple Podcasts is because that's where most of the people listen to us. So that's why I did that.
Really?
Visit PC World, visit on YouTube and Twitter, but then also a little daily bonus entry. So if you're really diligent about it, this thing is open for 2 weeks. You could get a bonus entry every day of that of the 2 weeks that it's going to be up.
There you go.
Yeah. So
And you have a lot of these kits too. It's not just like there's one of them.
there's 5.
it looks like
Yeah.
a big pile
And
back there.
at least one of them I have opened is not mint. But
There's
you.
probably 2 because you've taken photos already. I think of
Yeah,
another
well,
one.
actually, that was a 6th kit. That was
Oh,
for
very
us.
nice.
So, yeah. So yeah, there are 5 kits that you can win. It is live right now at 11:11 on February
Somebody-
13th. Yay!
Somebody's already entered.
Yeah. Get your entries in because it is definitely a cool bundle. Thank you to AMD for providing this bundle, and once we get the winners picked, I'll try to get these out as quickly as possible so you can get to some awesome gaming. 'Cause, yeah,
Those GPUs, I've seen them in person, are seriously impressive.
So beautiful.
Especially if you're into that retro sci-fi look, like they look really cool.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
if you want a white inside your PC case, there's not that many white GPUs. It turns out.
Right. Yeah. No, it is really pretty.
Very slick.
And it for the people who are worried about 12-volt high power, you got 2 8-pin powers on here. There you go. So
That's our tie-in.
yeah, that's a tie-in.
Perfect segue. No notes.
Perfect segue. So anything else to get back to with the cable mod recall or the actual adapter?
I feel like we talked about that enough.
Okay. Yeah.
Like much
Yeah.
more to be said.
Yeah.
Man, don't put fewer points of failure in your computers. That's my advice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very good point of advice.
Exactly. Well, let's move over to the next topic. The next topic is kind of a mishmash. We were looking over things to talk about, and I even asked some people on Discord like what we should talk about, and there was kind of a mishmash of stuff. And I was like, hey, you know what? This is all related to Windows. Either confirmed changes or potential upcoming changes. A lot of things to talk about kind of on the Windows side. And even though we are a hardware podcast, software is a key component to how that stuff works. So I thought about we can talk about this. So there's a couple things to cover. So we should hopefully get to most of these, but the first one is there was an article recently. I linked to a Verge article. I actually don't know if we covered it on PC World, but I guess somebody was digging around in the Windows 11 features and found a super resolution feature built into Windows specifically. Brad, are you familiar with this? Actually, we did do an article. Mark kind of messed around with it.
Mark managed to get a hold of it and do a hands-on, so it should be up now-ish. It was filed for editing right before I came in here.
Oh, okay.
But this is actually something that we've known about.
Oh, really?
Since I think it was October or November. Windows Central did an article talking about the next version of Windows, how it's going to be AI powered, coming out in the middle of 2024 and sometime. And super resolution is one of those features that was included in the list. I love the idea of Microsoft inserting some sort of standardization into this upscaling technology. Much the same way we've been begging for it for RGB lights. Like, this is begging for standardization.
Well, but just to understand, what is this scaling? Is this just the video, kind of like the video super resolution? Could this scale games? Is this scaling just the UI in Windows? Like, what does this cover?
It's not actually working yet. Mark was able to get in on it, and it's not actually working yet. Just based on the description from the original reporting from back in November, along with what we can see available in the Insider Preview app now, it's considered to be some sort of super resolution style technology, video upscaling. Think of FSR, FSR1. And the implementation is going to make a big difference for this, because if Microsoft is standardizing some way to just make it so Windows uses FSR1 or Radeon Super Resolution technology to upscale, it's always going to be inferior to DLSS2 and FSR3 because those hook into the motion vectors in the game. But if they're working on some way to standardize ways to include that for upscaling, things would get a lot more interesting.
So this is like driver based scaling, because both NVIDIA and AMD have driver based scaling that doesn't require the game to actually support it. So this is kind of similar to that.
It wouldn't necessarily be in the drivers; it'd be in Windows itself.
Yeah, but it's the same kind of thing.
Same kind of idea. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think the neat thing about this is it could potentially be a part of DirectX, the DirectX great graphics APIs, so that you don't have to support. If you're a game developer, you don't have to support AMD and NVIDIA and potentially Intel, and you can just say, "Hey, I'm just going to support the whatever the DX version of this is," which, like, that seems good.
That would be awesome, because right now you have to pick and choose between FSR2 or DLSS2 or DLSS3. And they are similar enough that if you get one or the other, developers tell me you can turn on the other ones fairly quickly, which does happen sometimes. But having just the same base target for everyone to shoot for and then getting converted into DirectX calls would be a game changer for this.
Honestly, when we implemented it, we did DLSS and then ended up not doing FSR just because it was easier to install the plugin than it was to hook it into the UI. Like, getting the UI stuff hooked up, it turns out is surprisingly time consuming for most games because UIs are always a pain. It sounds stupid, but yeah.
Well, I guess the question I have then is, a lot of times when we talk about these features that get built into Windows, do we trust Microsoft to handle this the best?
It's in Microsoft's interest to handle it well, right? Like, there's no potential downside for them taking this on, other than that it'll slow down the vendor specific stuff that Intel and NVIDIA seem to be doing. The AMD solution is relatively agnostic and just, I think, uses compute cores for the most part, right, Brad?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so it's the same on all platforms, but Intel and NVIDIA doesn't work on other platforms, on other vendors' cards, and Intel's solution, it works better on Intel than everybody else's, is my understanding.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I guess the other potential downside is it's already confusing as hell. I mean, there are so many different ways you can use upscaling technologies that this just adds another layer to it. Like, that's the only other downside I can think of, is that it is just like even more muddies the water of like, okay, well, what the hell should I use? Or in what situation should I use it?
Again depends on how it's implemented. Is it actually going to be a consumer feature? Who even knows that? Like, it could be. It doesn't necessarily have to be. This could be a pure DirectX 12 thing where they're making it available so it's standardized, so everyone just shoots for the same thing, and then NVIDIA and Intel and AMD work off of that. So it really does like deeply depend on the implementation of this. But even if it is a consumer feature, I think, Microsoft getting into this and ensuring a baseline of it, that's good. So I think the only other one that kind of works like that is Radeon Super Resolution and FSR1. But FSR1 still has to be. So Radeon Super Resolution. And then you can just take that off your plate. Microsoft handles it. And then, NVIDIA and AMD still have room to improve upon things with their own technologies. Much how, like, even though FreeSync monitors are the norm these days, high-end G-Sync monitors still exist. So I like it.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Sorry.
I guess more to come on it, because, like you said, Mark is actively trying to use it, but hasn't been able to understand or get it to work. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Another one, and kind of piggybacks off this, is I want to talk about HDR for a little bit, because I know there are some people who say that, hey, the auto HDR in Windows 11 has actually been pretty good. I've also heard some reports have been like, oh, you know what, it just hasn't worked for me, and I can't get it to work. There is also another article that I linked in the description from Tom's Hardware, talking about an NVIDIA feature that a modder came across, having auto HDR in the game-ready driver. So I guess let's step back from a high level. Will, I think you're one of the people who's messed around with auto HDR on Windows, right?
Yeah, it turned on automatically once, and I was kind of scared, and made me think that my monitor was breaking, and then I turned it off really quickly after that, and I don't think it's a particularly good feature as it's implemented right now.
Interesting. Brad, have you messed around with auto HDR in Windows?
Yeah, it has gotten a lot better since the early days. I don't know when you tried that, Will. It's still not something you want to use nonstop.
Yeah, this was early. It was relatively early on, and I'm old enough that I come from the world of, I want the monitor to represent what the person who wrote the software is intending. And anytime you get something in between me and that, I'm probably going to turn it off. But at the same time, HDR support on Windows is really bad when you compare to how it works on like the consumer electronics devices like TVs, and like we don't have infrastructure in Windows and on the hardware side to handle, switching from a non-HDR title or game or video or whatever to one that does support that. So like whatever they're doing to make this better I don't think is going to be bad. I think being more thoughtful about how they switch HDR and having something that you can kind of just leave on and have it tone map SDR so it looks. I don't know how to, like, I'm skeptical, but I hope it's something. I hope this is something that works, I guess, is where I'm at. I'm just rambling now.
Yeah, well, go read the article by Aaron over on Tom's.
We also have
we have an article.
PCWorld.com if you don't want to go read Tom's Hardware.
Sorry, not fun at all.
Tom's Hardware is good too. You can go there as well. Love those guys.
Yes. Yes. But I think the fundamental thing for me is that, the HDR implementation by the developers is usually the best way to go, correct? I mean, it's kind of like the whole upscaling thing, right? Is that like usually the newest, best implementation is going to be at the developer or, like kind of built into the game. But there are a lot of people who have HDR displays that want to use the glories of HDR, that might want to mess around with this stuff. Would you trust NVIDIA's implementation more than the Windows-based one?
I see. Well, you have to trust it more if it comes out and it's good. But to me, I've used a lot of HDR, and I think the answer is it depends. Like universally, it's going to be it depends. Using auto HDR in games. In some games, like I think it was Halo 5 I was playing, it worked really, really good. It looked amazing. In other games, it did not. It did the exact opposite, messed up color schemes. I've spent some time playing around with that RTX Video HDR feature that they just rolled out for NVIDIA just rolled out for Chrome desktops. If you have a GTX graphics card or RTX graphics card, that's where this is actually coming from, hidden in the files for that, the implementation for that. And that just rolled out as a feature, and that adds auto HDR to videos that you play through your browser currently. And it actually, sometimes it looks really, really good. I don't know if you remember, we saw this at CES, Adam. They had Games of Thrones, big battle scene on the screen. It was a really dark scene, and it really helped a lot. It was the same deal for a subway scene. Like, it worked out. Like, you could see a lot more. One, you get into the artistic creation aspect of that. But two, I've been playing around with it, and it seems to almost overcompensate in bright areas sometimes to try to increase the contrast in dark areas.
Huh.
So it really, all these in between things, the answer is always going to be, it depends, I think.
See, once again, that's why it gives me pause, because it just becomes another thing that you have to think about overhead wise, like, which can get confusing. It's good to have options, but it also can get very confusing.
I mean, it's funny because you wouldn't think it's the case, but HDR is one of those things that's kind of time intensive to support, because you're essentially putting an entire other graphics pipeline in your game that you have to test. So, if your testing overhead goes way up, your like UX people have to do a lot of work to make sure that the UX is tone mapped appropriately. The UI stuff is tone mapped appropriately for the different, for like not just two scales of monitors, but like the entire range of monitors, including stuff that doesn't exist now, right? Like at some point in the next 2 years, somebody's going to come out with something ridiculous like a 2000 nit monitor, and like if you haven't accounted for that, your game's going to look janky and weird when people start blazing their eyes out with 2000 nit monitors at full blast. So and also it increases support calls because people do things like run HDR without doing the calibration right, or my favorite is I like to be able to see people in the dark when I'm playing a shooter, so that I always cheat the gamma up a little bit on that darkness slider. And if you do that with an HDR monitor, you're going to completely hose your image and it's going to look weird. And then you're going to call and be like, hey man, your game looks blown out and weird. Why is that? And it's totally your fault for making a bad choice. So like it's a hard thing to support, especially since there's no kind of centralized store. I think there's a Windows calibration utility now, but it's still something you have to download. And like, if you have to download it, you have to assume that like 0.1% of users are going to have actually done that when you're looking at a broad game. So it's until it's integrated with Windows in a way that's meaningful, and like you have to do it the first time Windows detects an HDR monitor on your machine. And hopefully all the calibration stuff is handled at the OS level, just like it is with a console on a TV. Then we'll maybe start seeing people start to use it and adopt it, and it'll take off. But until then, it's kind of half measures that aren't going to move the needle.
That's what I was about to say. Like, this has been figured out on consoles. What could be learned from the console figuring it out that they can apply to Windows?
Well, I mean, we need to have a centralized authority that looks at every piece of software that's released on the platform and says, okay, this one meets the standards, and then we're not going to allow them to release it until that happens. And they're going to do things like look at the HDR support and say, oh, well, it turns out your calibration is off for this, so you need to do this. Realistically, Microsoft has to do major changes to the backend on Windows to make it easier to support.
Oh. Yeah. Well, okay.
I'm still glad to see it though, because I do like the opportunity to give games a shot, because like again, some of the dark videos I've seen with this auto tuning, it actually does make it look better and more consistent with what I normally see in HDR video, even though I do get the artistic interpretation side of that. And there's plenty of old games where I think that could come in very handy. So I'm glad it's coming into existence. It's just Band-Aids left and right in this space until everything's fixed, like Will said.
Yeah.
Elena, this is just another reason why consoles are better than PC, right?
I'm not touching that.
It's a trap.
Not touching that. It's a trap.
Sorry. Just had to ask. Yeah. HDR. Yeah. I mean, I now have an HDR TV. And so on my living room PC, I actually have been trying to run auto HDR on Windows. I haven't run into any like crazy problems, but yeah. Once again, sometimes
it's been getting a lot better.
Yeah.
It's been getting a lot better, but there's still, you'll find some if you're picky.
I trash talked it on my other podcast a couple weeks ago and got a bunch of people responding saying that if you use the Windows calibration tool, it improves. Like once they rolled that out and people started doing that, it improved it dramatically. But I still kind of want just the other thing. I want it to make the I want to be able to run the monitor in HDR mode and have it bring the SDR stuff up so it looks right on the HDR monitor without shifting modes back and forth all the time.
When it gets confusing and it shifts down to that grayscale is what happened all the time at the start, and it's the worst.
Well, and sometimes the fix for that is, hey, you have to unplug and replug the cable because nothing else is going to get the monitor out of that weird state when it gets stuck there. So,
another thing, kind of talking about Windows is there was talk about Windows 12. What does that mean? Tom's guide. I'm sorry. Maybe we have an article too. Maybe I just didn't find it. Has an article recently about Snapdragon X Elite laptops launching in mid 2024, and theorizing that maybe Windows 12 could come around at that time. I know there was some speculation of when that comes out. Brad, is there any understanding of when Windows 12 will be coming out, or no?
That's funny. We actually do have an article about that, because that ties into the initial report that I was citing earlier from Windows Central, where I was saying it brought up super resolution. The crux of the whole thing is that their reporting says that there's going to be a next-gen AI-focused version of Windows, much more so than this, built around the Windows Store and whatnot, and it'll be timed to release with those Qualcomm Snapdragon X chips in the middle of the year. The controversy right now is because they just announced there's going to be a Windows 11 second half big feature update as well. They're starting to test those features. So some channels are taking that to mean there's not going to be a Windows 12 or a Windows AI or whatever you want to call it coming out mid-year. But the initial report always said this would be a whole new build. It wouldn't get pushed out to existing Windows PCs because we're going to have stricter requirements, stuff around AI. So there's room for both.
So yeah, stricter requirements, AI features. Obviously, Copilot is out, and they're trying to tie in there. But specifically with the Snapdragon thing too, support for ARM has been a big thing. Qualcomm is making another very large push into the Windows space with the Snapdragon X platform, and so a lot of people are like, actually, well, Windows has a lot to address to get ARM working really well on Windows.
That was Qualcomm. From what they're showing, they showed in I think December. It's always freaking Maui that they announce these things.
Oh yeah,
these actually look to be the first real shot that Qualcomm has on the laptops on the PC. Like, they look really interesting. If they're all in on the AI future of PCs, based off the early engineering samples, they dominate Meteor Lake and what AMD has out now. So, could be an interesting time. Microsoft has confirmed none of this stuff. I don't think Qualcomm has officially confirmed that it's going to be tied to a new version of Windows. But both Qualcomm and Intel have confirmed that they expect big new release for Windows sometime this year.
Elena, you interested in ARM on Windows?
As somebody who tried to get mileage out of a Surface RT device, I am secretly rooting for ARM getting some proper love on Windows. I don't think we're going to see a repeat of history here, which is good. I am curious, though, how the naming is going to work. Of course, the media picks up something sometimes and they kind of run with it because it's people just trying to figure out what it could be, right? But I think it would be really strange for a mid-year release of another numbered Windows while still having announced the big second half of the year update for Windows 11. So I wonder if it's just going to be more of like Windows AI that then becomes Windows 12. Branding later on or something like that.
You're thinking it's like a plus pack or Bob getting layered on top of Windows 11?
No, but more in the sense how they've come out with things like Windows 10S, and like different variants of it. But I mean, they're at some point they're going to have to stop the numbers, right? Can you imagine it's just saying Windows AI, right? So they have no numbers associated with it. It just, yeah, your eyes will, you're like, no, I hate it.
Windows 720. That's what I want. I just,
well, I mean, they've hit so many Final Fantasies. There's only so many times a fantasy can be final, I guess. But
Yeah,
they
and then
still keep
somebody-
numbering those.
A friend of the show, Bob Jones, 1980, in YouTube chat is pointing out like doesn't Windows 10 have to be dead before 12 happens, right? So they would have like 3 versions out at the same time, which also would be very unusual. We haven't really seen that before.
Well,
The naming thing is the most interesting part to me. Like the features are going to be the features and the performance is going to be the performance, which I'm not saying is a bad or good thing. It's just that we will take those as separate components later on. For me, it's just like, how are they going to market this? How are they going to, promote and brand it, I guess.
is the idea that the ARM-based Windowses will be able to run x86 code, or that they're going to be limited again, like in the bad old days of Windows 8, where you had your Surface RT that could run the 18 apps that were in the Microsoft Store?
Oh, that was bad.
Much.
They haven't said, neither Qualcomm nor Windows has said anything, but
Okay.
vastly improved x86 support is one of the features of the Snapdragon X.
I mean, it makes sense. Apple was able to do something similar with their M series MacBooks and old x86 code on their side. So it seems like a smart thing for Snapdragon to have invested in, or Qualcomm to have invested in.
Yeah.
I just don't know if people want, like, do any of you want more AI in your Windows?
Want is a really strong term. They already have started popping up that beta icon that you can't get rid of in the taskbar in Windows 11.
Oh no, that's
you
the
can
first
get
thing.
rid of it.
Yeah, that's the first thing I get rid of, that stupid icon.
I can't get rid of it on my.
There's a PowerShell command. It takes about 8 seconds, and you never see it again.
All right, I'm gonna have to go
Gone
to the
with
actual.
Teams.
Oh god. Yeah. No.
Hey, do you want to use Teams to talk to your family and friends?
Oh yeah, I want to have it be my go-to platform for messaging everyone in the future.
Absolutely, it's what I also suggest my family use Slack to handle family gatherings.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You should start a poll, Willis. Ask people if they're excited for more AI in their Windows.
I don't think we need a poll to know the answer to that question.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, there was somebody asking earlier, and we kind of touched on it. What kind of requirements do we think are going to be coming in the future, especially for AI? Do you think whatever next version, whether they call it 12 or an AI subvariant or whatever, do you think it'll require an NPU? That maybe that's a reason why both AMD and Intel are really pushing these NPUs hard.
I wouldn't be surprised by it. But I think if they try to do it this summer, it's a bit premature to try it. So who knows?
I mean, you think about how long it takes new hardware to filter out to the majority of the chain, and the user base. The user base is 1 billion people deep for Windows, right? So they can sell all the computers they want in the next 3 years, and they're going to barely scratch the surface. So they have to start at some point when it's always going to be too early. But at the same time, like, what's the benefit that we can that we get better voice recognition, that the computer can pick faces out of our photos that we upload into the cloud services that store all of our photos now off of our phones? I don't know what the upside is for a traditional PC user, frankly.
One of the features that the Windows Central report first said was smart timeline history. So you can go back and hop into stuff that you used to use. But I'm like, they already had timeline in there. I used it all the time and they killed it. I don't get the benefits of slapping this on an NPU.
That seems like a database problem, not a, hey, we need to have a machine learning problem.
If they are going to make this AI push, it's actually, I think, a clever time to do it, because part of the problems with the PC industry the last couple of years has been everybody upgraded during the pandemic. So nobody's been upgrading the last few years. So right now we're 4 years in. Businesses and people are both going to be looking to start upgrading stuff now. So if they really do want to make a concerted push and say, okay, we're kicking everyone who doesn't have NPUs off the boat for this version of Windows, this is an almost unique time in history for them to have the ability to reset things with one push like that.
Which, though, I do feel like they could do that regardless, but with the I'm thinking back to the TPM requirement for Windows 11, right? And they at least had a story of, hey, this is a security feature that is going to be a big deal for us, and we want to implement it, and we know it's hard to pill to swallow, but we're going to move forward. And they didn't back off on it.
Yeah.
But I do wonder, like, what's the story here? They'd have to come out with a really good story and be like, hey, yes, it's hard. You need to have an NPU, but here's why you want to have it. Security is one thing, and that is a good story. But like, this is a feature that makes your life better, not like, is it a must-have?
I honestly think they would have a better shot of selling it than the TPM thing. Because if you remember, the TPM thing, they came out with pretty stringent requirements, like only CPUs of these generations or TPMs of like this generation. So like TPM 2.0, right? And then they started walking it back because people protested. I honestly think if they could come up with not even a killer feature, but at least an interesting one, because it's really interesting because there's a lot of, I think, skepticism like among us and like, our group of people who are in our chats on Discord and all of that, a lot of skepticism around AI. But when I talk to my friends who are not, who work in technology, they're at like Tesla and Google and other places, they are way more gung-ho about it. Like they will honestly go to Chat GPT to come up with, random things, one of my friends uses it to troll people in Overwatch. He's gotten his account banned several times because he's like toxic positivity. How could I make this happen? So he asked Chat GPT just to give him a list of really positively toxic things to say. I was like, you are using this tool for evil.
Oh no! Don't tell Gordon about this. He'll have a whole new list of trolls. How do I troll somebody better?
But like this is the kind of stuff like that people enjoy doing. Like that people use it to like get ideas for travel or restaurants to visit, things like that. So if they can come up with a compelling enough list of features for it being baked into Windows, I think they have a much better shot of saying like, hey, you're going to want to upgrade your hardware because you'll get access to all these cool, interesting things.
To be fair, you don't need an NPU to do that though. Like,
no, but I'm just saying like they can sell it that way.
Yeah, true.
You have to have it.
I mean, that's always it, right? It's about the story, and the story is
marketing.
Hey, I can find a nice Thai restaurant near me using the machine, and it works better than Google. The fascinating part of all this is watching Google burn down its core business to chase something that they haven't effectively established as a real thing yet. And anyway, Elena's right though. Normal people love ChatGPT. They're just out there ChatGPT and left and right. Lawyers, marketing people, like analysts. What should I say to my client who's having this crisis? And it's like, oh yeah, do this, and it's all fine. It's all great.
The tricky part is going to be selling it. I agree with that, because to me, like I spent CES trying to look for practical or even fantastical, cool applications of NPUs and AIs. They just don't exist. The report the Windows Central report that I've now cited like 5 times that initially talked about this, they had a list of different features like the super resolution, search gets smarter, that Windows timeline, which are all cool things. But again, none of those are like, hey man, that's cool. That makes me really want to go try that out. And I think right now it's kind of like the companies love AI way more than a lot of people do. And you can already get Chat GPT like results by using Copilot in Windows. And they've done a terrible job of selling that so far, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so it's really going to depend. Can they come up with something really cool that makes normal people go, wow, this is amazing. I need to go to this new version of Windows for this.
You know what I love? Oh, sorry, Elena, go ahead.
So I'll go real quick. I don't even know if it needs to be like as impressive the way you're saying it, Brad, though, because I think we're still thinking it from like a tech enthusiast. We love like badass, cutting edge type tech. Like, I honestly think if they're able to successfully come up with something where it's like, hey, I was looking at a PDF last week that had this word in it and I can't find it. And Windows is like, here it is. You'd be like, sold, I'm buying that, because the amount of time it saves you. Like, I like things like on Amazon now, like some approaches I've seen where it's like, here's 10,000 reviews, but here's generally what the reviews have said. Like, this is a thing, but they don't like this. And I'm like, I'm still going to look at the reviews myself, but it's kind of nice to have that like going in so that it saves me a little time of even having to mentally organize what to expect, right? Like, I think those little, not even little, those time saving type things, if they can make that happen, just kind of like how you're talking about photos, recognizing faces, so you can more easily find photos with people in them. Specific people in them, that's going to be the killer feature for for normies, I think. You know,
I agree.
I agree. I think that like it's funny, the mundane stuff is somehow better, right? Like anytime I tap on some text in a picture on my phone and it copies the text out and it's perfect, and you're like, oh, this is exactly the text. This is what I needed. And it saved me 5 minutes of typing this in. That's fantastic. Every time I load up YouTube and I see that the subtitles suddenly are usable or the captions are suddenly usable and good, and I can like lay in bed and watch a YouTube video and read the captions and not annoy my wife with the sound on is fabulous. And like I just don't think people upgrade Windows for mundane stuff. I don't think people upgrade Windows. I think people buy new computers. I don't think they upgrade anything ever.
I agree.
True. Even better for the hardware manufacturers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time is money.
Yeah, right.
Dell and HP are, really excited.
Last kind of thing to touch on with Windows here. Speaking of variations on Windows, this is something we've talked about a little bit before, but the idea of having a separate kind of Windows for handhelds. We've talked about the viability of that. Obviously, it's the handheld market, even though it's a strong market and there's a lot of talk and work being done in it, it's still kind of a small portion of it.
Which very much.
Yeah, which makes me think, would Windows or would Microsoft really invest? I mean, they've got so much on their plate already, right? If they truly are going to have a Windows 11 major update, if they're going to have Windows 12 or whatever this AI kind of stuff is, and they're still supporting 10, and then what they're going to go off to the side and be like, hey, you know what? It's a small market, but we should have like a real thin version of Windows for handhelds over there. That's why I don't believe that we're ever going to see anything like that.
Oh, it's easy. They're just going to stop making Xboxes and put them on these, right?
Yeah, well, that was the other thing, right? In the news talking about, oh, wow, they're not going to make consoles anymore. We talked about that last week, and yeah, some people were then being like, oh, yeah, okay, well, they're going to be stopped making consoles so that they can get into handhelds or set-top boxes with, a slimmed-down version of Windows. I just... from a business aspect of it, to step back, like it's such a small little thing, not the console part, but the handheld part, that's why I'm like, I don't think they would really like, spin up a whole thing just for that. But who knows? Maybe they'll get out of the console business and be like, oh crap, I hit the TV.
Hit the TV again.
And where would everybody go? I can't. They're back. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Why do you hate us, Adam?
I know. Yeah. Just like needless to be the Adam Show.
He was like, don't come in. I want to be able to turn you off at any given moment.
Yeah. I guess, since we touched on the console thing, Microsoft is going to have an announcement on their official Xbox podcast, Thursday or something like that.
Yeah, in 2 days.
But there was an internal memo from the head of Xbox, saying to internal people, hey, we're still making hardware. So I truly believe we talked about it last week. But Elena, have your thoughts changed on any of this since we talked about last week? Do you think Microsoft's still in the hardware game? Do you think they're going to get into other places like handhelds and have a slimmed down version of Windows?
So I've been out of the console space for a while, so this is all pure speculation on my limited viewpoint. I think just given the history so far, where they've never really stepped into handhelds, like what they decided to do before was kind of clever actually, where they went for cloud gaming. And then they released these accessories where basically you could put an Xbox controller, like you hook it onto Xbox controller and it would hold your phone. Mm-hmm. So they're basically saying like, hey, just stream your games from the cloud on your phone, and you can use an Xbox controller with that, and it's going to basically approximate a handheld experience.
And it works great on handhelds too. So, yeah.
So, I mean, given that being in their history, the fact that they have been solidly number three in the console space for a while. The fact that Nintendo has such a stranglehold on handhelds, uh, I don't know if they would have the same passionate fan base that Steam does/did when they launched the Steam, like the why am I blank on the Steam handhelds?
Steam Deck.
Steam Deck.
Thank you. I don't see that being something that they would go for personally. And we've wanted for years a version of Windows that was stripped down like what's used for Xbox that you could DIY install yourself. They're not releasing that. So
what about a set-top box? I mean, they did talk about plans, or what was it? He had a little Xbox Mini thing on his in one of his videos. The head of Xbox, and they were talking. Yeah, Phil Spencer. And they were talking about, we were playing around with a little set-top box because I mean it would be the same kind of thing. So maybe that's how they could get into it.
Set-top box, like what the Xbox One was supposed to be?
No, because it's more like a Roku kind of thing, but just with an Xbox front end.
That's the joke, because when Xbox One launched, they were really pushing hard of like it being your all-in-one media, device. So you played your games on it, because at the time, like the numbers were in about like just how many people were using their consoles to watch Netflix and I guess maybe YouTube. So that's why I think they had this vision of like this all digital kind of entertainment experience in one box. That didn't go as well as
you
planned.
could plug your cable box into that thing. We all plugged our cable boxes into our Xbox Ones, right? That was great. You used the guide, it popped up, it was real slow. You could change channels, kind of.
Well, we are in a different place now, though. We're in a different place.
Yeah,
something like that could work,
But I mean, here's the thing: the Xbox Series S is selling for $210 right now, new.
Oh, really?
They're $100 off of the set-top box price. Like the nice Apple TV is $150. The nice Roku is $100 or $150. They're not far off of that price. If they sell it without a controller, or they figure out some way to strip it down, or they do a new process and shrink it down, and the normal mid-cycle refresh stuff. The Series S is a problematic SKU for a lot of developers, but players love it. It's great at 1080p. I can see a set-top box. I think it's also equally likely that they're looking at the innovation that's happening in the gaming handheld space and saying, hey, we should give these people who are doing all this weird stuff in this tiny slice of the market a little bit of OS juice in case there's actually something there and it's not just like a short term. Like we've seen these kind of weird handhelds coming out of Shenzhen before. But this is the first time that they've kind of stuck outside of Southeast Asia, it seems like. So I could totally see them making a Windows 11 Mini or something that's like extra big icons designed for 7-inch screens, launches straight into a 10-foot interface, kind of touch-friendly handheld interface. Windows 8, but good, basically.
I mean, to be honest, I mean that's something I want for sure as a handheld. What do we call it? The Deviant last week.
Use the P word.
Yeah. Word of the day. So it's I don't know. There's a lot of questions obviously around the whole Xbox thing. So I do wonder, if there will be any indication on Thursday. If that plays into handhelds as well, like, hey, here's our, like, will Phil get on there and be like, here's our overall strategy. We're still gonna have consoles, but we're gonna push to do games on other spaces. We're gonna push into handhelds as well, set-top boxes, more streaming, AI. I don't know.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense for them to do what Sony does and do timed releases where it's exclusive to the Xbox for a while and then it rolls out to other platforms over time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, so Being Room TV had a good question. A Windows version for handhelds or an Xbox dedicated UI for handhelds. I guess that's another good way to put it. I've always thought about it as like a streamlined Windows 11 install.
Yes.
Versus like taking an Xbox OS and putting it on handhelds.
I think the talk about Xbox releasing its own handheld or its own set-top box is separate from the talk about whether or not to be a Windows handheld gaming version. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft did put out its own thing that's focused on Xbox Ultimate Cloud, whatever I pay for it. I don't even know what it's called these days. That's
Game Pass.
purely a streaming box. But I think that gaming PCs are one of the rare growing markets inside the PC industry even these days. And within that niche, these handheld gaming PCs are getting a lot of interest. And Valve is, right on the precipice of being able to lock those down and be like, hey, we were the first one, we are the best one, and it's all based on Linux and SteamOS. And I think that Microsoft would always be scared of that, especially these days. I think they're starting to realize just how big a deal it is for them to have let the Xbox One flounder and give that lead to Sony. So I think it would make them more likely to try to support things like a streamlined Windows handheld OS. I'm on painkillers, so sorry I'm talking.
No,
to you,
no,
but-
not a problem. It all made
if
sense to
I'm-
me.
If I'm making my wish list, what I want is for them to build an API that hooks all the stores together so that I can have one 10-foot interface that launches all of your bad DRMs, and I can play Fortnite and Assassin's Creed and Apex all from the same main 10-foot interface without having to switch back and forth all the time. That sounds great. Like let's
That's the dream.
make it happen.
Which, I
Microsoft.
mean, theoretical Xbox OS could do that. I think, though, that's the hard part, is that the glory of Windows on handhelds is that you can do all these different launchers and get around DRM and stuff like that. That's why I think it would probably be a streamlined Windows 11 install versus a dedicated Xbox OS,
And-
which might not support other launchers.
I mean, they also have some skeletons that they have to fix too, right? If you look at the way they support WinGDK games on the Game Pass, if you have PC Game Pass or Ultimate, where you get PC games, a lot of those games are emulated in ways that are really weird. And the perf is like, if you compare Steam perf to Microsoft Store perf on the same exact title, it's real bad on the Microsoft Store version, and the Steam version runs on native APIs without any weird emulation. So and for whatever reason, nobody ever talks about that. I don't understand exactly. I mean, I guess Game Pass is a really good deal, but
It's probably because of that. Because I pay like $8 a month for it.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like,
Oh,
people are
like,
talking
well-
about this Pal World thing. Oh, I could buy it? No, I've got it over on Game Pass. Let me try it over there.
It'll just run 40% slower and have a lot of drop frames, but that's probably
That's
fine.
okay. I didn't want it anyway. So,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So who knows? Yeah. A lot of stuff in the Windows space. I mean, I think there's definitely more to come hardware release wise at the end of the year, but then software, I am curious. I didn't even know there was an official Xbox podcast, so I guess I'll download one episode to hear what's going on over there, to see if it has any impact on us.
Just
but
run
we'll
it through Copilot, get the transcript out, and you can
Oh,
just blow
God.
right through it.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Corporate
AI at work.
synergy, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, on YouTube, I've noticed. I don't know if anybody else has noticed. There's been some sort of chatbot that summarizes our podcasts after the fact. It makes
Really?
it makes a comment in our podcast feed later. It's usually maybe takes a day or two. But yeah, there's like a comment. And it's like, oh, hey, here at this time they talked about this here and I'm like, oh, that's kind of actually interesting. It's not always correct,
Alright.
but yeah.
It's not judgy. It's like, you need to do better at that.
yeah. Oh, you messed up that intro. No, it's just like a recap, a timestamp, and a
Oh.
kind of a recap at certain times. It's
Nice.
interesting, weird, a weird time we live in.
Rambling.
Yeah. You know what? You could skip over this part. It's not interesting. Speaking of interesting, that you should stick around for, we got a Q&A. Let's switch over to Q&A. Get through some questions, but before what?
I said ask us
Oh,
questions.
yes. Ask us questions in the chat right now. If you're watching us live at PC World, that's the easiest way for us to kind of see it in the chat. If you're watching or listening to this later, go over to the link in the description. There's a link for our Discord group with a Full Nerd Questions channel in there that hopefully I will read on this show. I realized we had a couple super chats come in that I did not get to, so we're going to hit those first. First one is from Clay over on YouTube, gave us $4.99. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not a question, just a comment. Back about the cable mod thing. Sorry, it took me a while to get there. Had the 1.0 version of the cable mod adapter for 5 months, then had the 1.1 version for 1 month, and now have an angled cable. They're running a 4090. Never had an issue, but I also wasn't dumb and pulled it out each time. So, there's a one data point. So I'm glad you have never had any problems. And then a friend of the show, Mike Quinton, gave us a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Always appreciated. And said, the CPSC is no joke. If car manufacturers listen to them, PC companies may need a civics refresher, as getting subpoena before Congress isn't good. Yes, no, the dealing with the CPSC is a serious thing for serious matters, for sure. Not just in the tech space. So, yeah.
Cable Mod's going right along with it, though. Again, this is
For sure.
voluntary.
No, this has been good. Okay. Here's a question that I guess I could have asked in the last one. But Brandon over on chat says, why don't consoles allow you to run Windows? Except for that one weird time where PS3s could install Linux, but then they took it away, and I got like $5 from a class action lawsuit.
It's not made for that.
It could though. I mean, it's just hardware. Like they could run Windows if they wanted to.
It's a machine that's designed to sit in somebody's living room and play games that they sell you in exchange. They're selling developers access to the install base of the platform, right, in exchange for a percentage of sales. And they're selling customers a way to play games that they don't have to think about it too much, hopefully. And when you start letting people do things like install Windows or put Linux on it, all of a sudden you have it increases the risk of piracy, people running unauthorized software that makes it able to be rooted and run for piracy purposes, and it just increases their risk a lot. And there's no real what's the upside for them? The downside is that they can tank the entire business they spent billions of dollars developing in the hardware, and that all of their software partners have done. And the upside is that people can run Windows and kind of noodle with it for a little bit, and Iran will make a supercomputer out of it or something. I don't remember what the upside of the PS3 Linux thing was.
Folding at home.
Yeah, folding at home. So there you go.
Yeah.
The upside of that was people did start doing, copyright infringement and stuff like that with it, and it wound up getting shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I got like $20 or something for the settlement for buying a PS3, and having Linux taken away. So, yay me.
Same. Well, it's not a question, but I'm going to pose it as one. Ruruchi asks, why don't you tell new listeners about the giveaway? Oh, yes, we have a giveaway that you can get in right now. I'm going to put it, actually, if you can change the description, put the link in there, please.
Okay.
But there's a link in the description. We're gonna put it in the chat as well. Go over to our Gleam.io page. We are giving away this AMD Starfield bundle with a 7800 X3D and a 7900 XTX. Not only does the bundle look good aesthetics wise, we got cool packaging, we got a cool design on the GPU, but I mean this is some of the best when you're talking about gaming hardware out there. So you too can get one of the 5 bundles that I have right behind here for me. Read the TOCs. It's for specific people. I'm not going to get into it here, but there's multiple ways to enter. Even a free entry every day. If you want to go back there and get your free entry in every day, you should definitely do that. Skeet Sayer asks, is it open to Canada? It is only legal residents of the 50 United States, including the District of Columbia and Canada, except Quebec, are eligible to win. So read the full TOCs for that. But yeah, good stuff. Thank you again to AMD for providing that stuff. I'm excited to get this in people's hands. It's a good thing. Oh, and it's going to be running for 14 days. So we're going to announce, pull the winners live on stream in 2 weeks. So definitely go check that out.
Wow.
Yeah, that might be kind of fun to do. Not going to guarantee it, but so
do you have like a big crank with the ping pong balls or something in there you can put in?
No. To be fair, there are multiple ways to enter. You go over to the page, you get in entries. You can enter multiple times. Like I said, you get a free entry every day if you're diligent about it. And then the actual app itself pulls the entries. I can re-roll if it's not a valid entry. But yeah, no big spinner thing. That would be fun. But the legal people tell me that's not something I should do anyway. So,
Boo.
boo, legal people. Just kidding.
I love the legal people, but
We have great lawyers here. Actually, no, I do work with some nice people.
Maybe it's not boo the lawyers, but boo the laws.
Yeah,
I
no.
got-
Just to be clear, I'm not booing the legal team. I'm a fan of the legal team.
I got a check for that.
You got a track for legal people?
Oh.
Legal people. I'm just kidding. No. Okay. Here we go. Over on the Discord. I haven't seen this name before. Yarj. YRJ. I don't know. Which form factor is going to be supplanted first? M.2, AIC, or CPU sockets? What is AIC? Why is that?
Add-in card.
Oh,
Is that it? Is it just PCI Express?
Yeah, maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
What do you think?
I mean, the CPU sockets get replaced every like 2-3 years usually, right?
Well,
I think it means it's no more.
yeah,
Like,
like soldered. We'll get away from socketable CPUs.
I'm gonna go with M2 there. I agree with Gordon that there is room for improvement on traditional ATX at this point, but I think, PCIe slots are going to be here to stay for quite a while, and I think that hopefully computer slots or chip slot sockets are here to stay, and memory interfaces change out every decade or so. So
I'm going to flip that. I think the PCI Express has less legs than them too, because I think we're going to start seeing smaller and smaller add-ins probably. Move to easier connectors. Like you can theoretically run a GPU on a Thunderbolt connection now. I don't know that I would. Probably always going to be faster to have a physical slot, but at some point,
But also internal. Yeah, I guess there are motherboards with internal USB-C headers. Those are typically high end, but
yeah.
or a revision to PCIe. We had seen. I showed Will some old GPUs over there, and I was like, wait, isn't that AGP? Wasn't that the one we looked at? AGP, and then there's PCI, and then there's PCIe. Has there ever been talk about
ISA back there? If you go back far
Yep.
enough,
has there ever been talk about a replacement for PCIe or the next evolution?
The point is you don't need to replace it because you just keep making the
Revisions.
lanes wider and faster. Like AGP was weird. I can't remember I feel like AGP ended up, they had this weird double density connector that was like staggered. The pins were staggered and high low. And it ended up causing the slots had a kind of limited lifespan as a result of that. It wasn't something that most people hit. It also, I feel like it added more power. It was more power. It was basically like a triple wide PCIe or PCI slot when they first rolled it out, and then they improved the speed of it. So I'd have to go back and read about this to remember the details. I remember what the cover of the issue of the magazine looked like though. So
a friend of the show, Onikaze, asks, Oculink. No, I don't believe Oculink. That's kind of going out of date spec already, and also that is meant for server platforms, and it is just PCIe lanes. So the actual connector itself is kind of old. It's just something that the people have been able to get some good use out of while we wait for newer Thunderbolts, things like that. So.
I mean, we're in a weird spot where everything's kind of trending toward just becoming PCI Express lanes at this point, right? M2 is just PCI Express lanes. True. USB 3 and 4 are PCI Express lanes. Thunderbolt PCI Express lanes. PCI Express is PCI Express lanes.
Yeah.
Like, what's next? External PCI Express lanes? I guess we have that in USB and Thunder. Anyway, yeah.
I was going to say my vote would have been for the M.2 because that's a specific connector type, whereas sockets can change, but I don't think the fact that they exist is going to be going away anytime soon. And then add-in cards, again, like we just did a quick history of different, connection types, but we've had add-in cards since forever. I think for those two to die, Gordon would have to get his long-standing wish for ATX to die.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm on the M.2 thing too. Not only because there are other options out there like U.2 that could have been better, or is better in some ways. The thing that Gordon talks about too, and I mean we see it with 4, PCI Gen 4 devices, but then Gen 5 specifically is heat, and so much heat in such a small thing, is can get scary. It's only going to get hotter and faster, so there's got to be some sort of revision to that. Another question from friend of the show Cause MC over on Discord: can companies, Shenzhen-based companies like OnePlayer X, Ioneo, and GPD stay alive as more AIB partners start to enter the handheld market? Speaking of, Asus, Lenovo is now in it, and then MSI had announced one. Who knows? Maybe Gigabyte will get in it. Other big manufacturers. I mean, Alienware was kind of first on that train a little bit, so maybe Dell, maybe HP. As more and more of these come in, do we feel like there's a space for the Ioneos of the world?
I think so. I think if this niche only gets larger, even if they stay where they're at, like as far as popularity, they've already proven they have a successful business. I think there's room in there. I think they'll have to do like they're already doing, cater to the discerning enthusiasts. Like, you're not ever going to out Lenovo or whatever with the Asus. You can't match that scale, but you can match the attention. You can beat the attention to detail in the whole package and stuff like that. And I'm going to be really curious when SteamOS does come out, like in a third-party form, like so anybody can install it. They've said they're intending to do that, and I hope they do. I'm really curious to see if any of the big OEMs go with that, or if that could wind up being like the Ioneo and its ilk are all Steam Deck rivals.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, it is a good point. I
Compliments, not rivals.
Yeah, I don't. I'm still up in the air on whether it's in Valve's best interest to release that if they will anytime soon. But yeah, I do wonder if then that means the AIB partners who already have long-standing relationships with Windows, if they're it's just like, the Lenovos and the Asuses of the world actually have to run Windows. That doesn't mean maybe you could just sideload or install it yourself, but by default they'll just continue to ship with Windows, which would be interesting.
I mean, the benefit of not shipping with Windows is they save, X number of dollars on every unit sold, which is, when you're working on the margins at Ioneo, is probably pretty substantial amount of money.
Good for them, but yeah, less of a problem with Lenovo, who already has a huge relationship with Windows. Yeah, Elena, what do you think? I know you're not a big handheld person, but
I was in chat and I missed the question.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Do you think the Shenzhen based companies are have a place in this world as more AIB partners get into it?
That feels like a trick question. Like, they obviously have a place in the world if they exist. So
I mean, but
I understand the question.
More and more AIB partners are getting into it, which have the scale, which can offer cheaper prices with the same level of hardware. And margins are so thin all around anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I'm invested enough in the handheld space to have an opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think where they...
I respect that.
Yeah.
More people should say that.
For sure. And I know you're not a big handheld person anyway, so just asking. But I think for me, the specific place where they play in the best, that I think a lot of the bigger companies like a Lenovo or Asus, they need to shoot for the lowest common denominator in terms of form factors, right? It's going to be a Steam Deck, traditional handheld kind of style. Obviously, Lenovo kind of swerved a little bit with the detachable controllers, but I think companies like Ioneo branching off into I put in a pre-order for the dual screen one that has 2 screens on it. GPD obviously does the clamshell ones as well with the built-in keyboard, which work really well. So I think like having the ability to do different form factors rather than just a traditional handheld thing, I don't think the larger companies can get the investment in there to do something like really weird. I think if anything going forward, the Shenzhen based ones are really going to kind of mess around with different form factors and play in that space.
Agreed.
Let's move over to another question. Actually, I can get to this real quick. Friend of the show, Great Mighty Dad, asked about getting a Z1 non-extreme version of the Ally versus an actual Z1 extreme version of the Ally. Friend of the show, The Fox, over on his YouTube channel, definitely has a lot of good videos. He was on the podcast. I'll bring him on again. I've actually been talking with Russ over at Retro Game Core. I love his YouTube channel as well. He doesn't go as deep into the actual performance as The Fox does. He's a little bit more about experiential and kind of that stuff around handhelds. But excited to have him on the show. But yeah, the difference between the non-Z1 Extreme and the Z1 Extreme, there's definitely a difference. I think they're saying at $400 you can get the non-Z1 Extreme for $400, where the Z1 Extreme is still a little bit of a price premium. I think it depends on how much of a price premium, because you can definitely get a lot more out of the Z1 Extreme. But man, if you're saving a lot of money and you're just going to do some light gaming, once again, I would say go look at some of the testing. I have never gotten in a non-Z1 Extreme, so I don't have any specific numbers to share, but it would give me pause. You'd have to get a real good discount on the non-Z1 Extreme and know that you're going to do real light gaming on it, because it is definitely nerfed compared to the Z1 Extreme variant.
I'm kind of concerned about the longevity of Windows handhelds. Like, I get what Steam is doing. They're setting the baseline. They're like, hey, we're going to do this. We're not going to refresh it on an annual basis. This is what you need to shoot for if you want to be on the Steam Deck. I feel like on the Windows side of things, it's starting to be a shootout once again, as it always is with PC vendors. Bigger number, better. So, hey, instead of a 720 screen, now this one has a 1440p screen, even though it makes the GPU run
1600p
fast.
screen. Yeah.
And considering that I think that's going to be an annual shootout on the PC side, I would be most invested in getting I would want to get the fastest possible version of a handheld if someone offers separate handhelds like they do with the ROG Ally. I think the difference is like 20% performance. And if you're going to buy this and you're not looking to update it every couple of years, then you just want as much performance as you can get out of it.
But at the same time, like, that performance isn't free. That performance is coming in trade off on battery. And that, like, if I'm sitting in my couch and I'm plugged into USB-C all the time, doesn't matter, right? Battery doesn't matter at all. Yeah. But if I travel and I'm sitting on an airplane and the power plugs on my seat are on every 10 minutes of every hour to top me off, like, I'm on an 8-hour plane ride, I'm going to run out of juice midway across the country, and that's not that obviates the entire reason for having the thing. So, like, I don't know. I'm much more on the battery. Like, I skew on the battery side. I also play on handhelds, like indie 2D games for the most part, and not 3D stuff that's going to really eat battery. So maybe I'm a bad example, but I really think the bigger number, better ethos for these kinds of handheld devices really is a disservice to the audience and to the potential customers, because realistically, I'm going to take battery over perf 9 times out of 10 in this category.
Yeah, I think
I agree,
going into it, you at least should understand what performance you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
That's why it's like the Z1 non-extreme and extreme definitely have different performance targets. So if you're willing to take that performance cut, and it's worth whatever the gap is. They didn't say the price of the Z1 Extreme version. I think by default it was like $100. At MSRP when it launched, and a lot of people, including myself, even though I didn't even test it, I was like, $100, you're losing a little too much performance there. But if it's like a difference of $200 or $300, okay, you know what, and you're okay with the level of performance it gives you, it could be viable for sure.
It's almost like we should talk about whether Windows or Linux is better for handhelds at some point in the future, huh, Adam?
Yeah. We have some plans around that for sure. Oh, stroking the chin. Yes, we do. Couple more questions and we'll get out of here. We got a good one from a friend of the show, Sort of Fast, asked, wondering what your thoughts are on NVIDIA FrameGen versus AMD Fluid Motion frames. What's the difference in how they are implemented? Brad?
They are vital. It's very important to know this. DLSS 3 and FSR 3 both are hooked into from the developers and include, they know what's coming, better motion, stuff like that. They check the motion vectors. They plan for the UI. They tie into the anti-lag kind of stuff. Fluid motion frames is like Radeon Super Resolution versus FSR2. It works, but there's a lot of limitations involved there.
And it's at the driver level. Doesn't have
at the
to be at
driver
the game
level.
Yeah.
It works in every game, but there's actually a really interesting article on, I think it was Digital Trends. They have a respec column by Jacob Wolf over there.
Mhm.
Jacob Roach. And he was testing a few different games that had, obviously you could turn on fluid motion frames, and it had FSR3. And he was finding that the frame time spikes with fluid motion frames are just brutal. They're brutal because if it hits a certain performance level, it'll just skip a frame rather than interpolating it like they're supposed to. So you just, depending on where you're going and what you're doing, the spikes are terrible, which puts numbers to something that I have felt in real life as well. Like, it feels not as responsive. It feels more herky-jerky. That can be beneficial if you're trying to play an older game and you just don't have the horsepower, and you can flip this on and say, hey, I'm going to try to play it with this. But DLSS 3 and FSR 3 are vastly superior in the moment-to-moment playtime. And those only work in games that support it. So that's the big difference between it and fluid motion frames.
Yeah, and it sounds like there's some people who don't fully understand like what
It's complicated.
It definitely is a complicated thing, and AMD fluid motion frames, just like FSR, is agnostic, hardware agnostic, right? It can run on video cards, Intel cards, because it's at the
Nope.
no.
Fluid
Oh
motion
yeah,
frames
fluid
only
motion
runs
frames is only.
on
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Radeon Sun.
Yeah, the upscaling isn't, or is agnostic, but the fluid motion frames isn't.
And you
Anything
have to
that's
turn on-
driver.
No, go ahead, Brad.
You can go ahead. Anything that's driver level is not agnostic. So Radeon
okay.
Super Resolution applies like FSR 1 effects to any game, but only on Radeon cards. And it's the same thing with fluid motion frames.
And you want to make sure that you turn on the anti-lag stuff on the AMD side, especially and both sides, frankly. You want to have reflex on. I think you have to have reflex on the DLSS 3 side.
Yes.
But you want to turn on anti-lag on the AMD side as well.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky part. A lot of games don't support anti-lag features in any way. And so if you're trying to use this interpolating frames, and so every 2 frames is now 4 frames. Think about how the input lag gets added to that. That's going to happen on every game that doesn't support, that you try to run fluid motion frames on, that doesn't support an anti-lag technology.
Anecdotally, on the DLSS 3 stuff, at least, I find I don't notice the frame generation lag when I'm using a gamepad, but if I'm using the mouse and keyboard, I immediately, like, the cursor feels floaty, the crosshair feels floaty in a way that's it's not bad, it's just uncomfortable. Like, I'd rather it feels muddy, it makes the whole game feel less less crisp and less responsive.
I agree 100%. To me, FSR 3 and DLSS 3 is best for big budget blockbuster AAA gamepads kind of games.
Yeah, it still feels very early days for the frame gen stuff. Kind of like the upscaling stuff was at launch too. I'm curious to see where it goes. In interesting times. Do we have an article on PC World kind of describing, like, in a deeper level?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Definitely, maybe not. I didn't write it, but we've had other folks write it.
Okay. Yeah.
I've missed a lot of time the last few months.
That's fine. We have a funny one from a Great Mighty Daddy, friend of the show, asks the last question I read on the show, which actually was, I think, a couple shows ago. Adam referred to me as a friend of the show. I did. You are a friend of the show. I've often heard this moniker used for other question askers, guests, and contributors alike. I'm humbled to have reached the milestone of recognition. Perhaps an achievement, trophy, or even the next swath of Full Nerd merch, like a t-shirt, should herald this prestigious tier of accomplishment and be made available to the masses. We do actually have a friend of the show t-shirt. that
Funny you
can-
mentioned.
Yeah, yeah.
We also have a mug for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we do.
we do have a little. It's like a little hi. My name is friend of the show kind of thing. So actually, you can not for free. You do have to pay for it. But you
I got
too.
some for my kids.
Yeah, there you go. I have seen some people be a little confused about the friend of the show moniker that that I throw around here. And honestly, there is no hard and fast rule. Mostly for me, it's a recognition of people that I see around. If I recognize the name and I'm like, oh, okay, you know what, I've seen them around, then you are a friend of the show. That doesn't mean, you know, if you're new, because I definitely am happy to have new people around.
You're all a friend of the show.
You're all friends of
You're
the
all
show.
friends of the show.
But especially the people that I recognize either here in chat, joining us live, which I appreciate, over on Discord, and then other guests. I will say as a friend of the shows, you know, as they come on. So yeah, I don't know. We're all regulars.
We're all friends.
Yeah,
We're
We're
all
friendly
friends.
people.
We're all friends.
Yeah. You all deserve a trophy. No, you don't. Actually, you don't. I don't know all of you. But you know, maybe you all do. You all deserve a friend of the show T-shirt, though. Not for free, though. We got some other questions, but we need to get out of here because it is time to get some lunch. I am
Time for
hungry.
lunch. I gotta go collect some more red envelopes.
Yeah, and all this food. Actually, you know what? I do need to. I'm going to try one of these gold coins.
Oh, okay.
I know you warned me. You're like, wait, hold on. The chocolate's not
that
great.
chocolate is not good.
Yeah. Alina knows.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Alina warned you. Okay.
Wait, so I thought you were supposed to get gold coins. This is like a sign of luck.
It's just a sign, but that doesn't mean
Well, I
the
have a sign
chocolate
of
inside
luck
that they make
with
is
like
good.
It's
crappy
symbolic.
chocolate in it.
It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it's good chocolate
Yes.
because
It's all for symbolic statue.
A friend of mine said that it's just preloading the candy that you the gold coins that you leave out to trick the leprechauns into your house next month.
It's not bad. I wouldn't call it bad. I mean, it's not. It's not go-to chocolate. It's a milk
it's a
chocolate, at least in this one.
It's very
I
pasty.
put it.
It's very
It's
pasty.
like a
I don't know.
4.5 out of 10 or 5 out of 10 for me.
I gave it a 2. I was like, that's pretty high.
And that's me being generous.
Yeah, I would.
Like the texture's not great. It's not even a good milk chocolate.
Is it worse or better than trading card gum? That's the question.
It wasn't hard. It didn't chip a tooth because
Okay.
sometimes that trading card gum can just be.
So trading card gum was like a weird texture, but like if you got it to not assault you, like the flavor was okay. This is
Okay.
like the opposite. The texture is okay, but the flavor is not super great. And it is kind of a slightly chalky texture.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's fine. We got $5 super chat from Matthew Lang. Says happy birthday, Matthew Lang.
Happy birthday. Thank
Happy
you so
Happy
much.
birthday to you. So glad you could
And-
join us on your birthday.
Coffee also gave us 1.49 cent Canadian dollar. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
with
thank
a is that a unicorn sticker?
Yeah, a little
It looks like an
Thank you.
outrage pony to me.
Outrage pony. There you
yes,
go.
right in the outrage pony. Also, friend of the show, Matt, is asking if I'm eating floor candy again. For
Well, it hasn't been on the floor. I made sure of that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'll trust you on that one. At CES, we have a behind the scenes video. If you didn't watch it, you should go watch the behind the scenes
dear.
video.
Okay, that gave me a headache.
Yeah, we went to the Shenzhen Plaza, but we went late at the end of CES, wrapped up, and a lot of the booths were already wrapped up. And I won't spoil it, but it was pretty funny. We found some candy on the floor and I ate it. It was a funny time.
You
It
said
was
you weren't
wrapped.
going to spoil it.
No. But I do something specific with it that you should definitely go
Oh,
watch
boy.
it.
I've seen
it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I just say that from the show Liquid R in YouTube chat is
Mhm.
telling me that 80s Army MRE chocolate had paraffin wax mixed in. Is this true?
Paraffin wax?
Is paraffin wax edible?
I didn't think it was.
I thought it had
paraffin wax is
oil
what
in it.
I thought that's what you used to like make
I hope.
decorative flowers and burn for light.
It's
I
made
hope
from-
not.
Yeah.
I
It's
spent
made-
like a year eating those.
I mean, I used to
Oh.
eat asbestos.
Wait,
so,
a
you know,
year?
I'm just kidding.
Oof.
Paraffin wax is made of petroleum, so I hope it's not edible.
You know, back in the day, you know,
Back in my
people did
days.
stuff. Yeah, back in my day.
That's true.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. A couple of housekeeping things. I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but I got a Retroid Pocket 4 Pro in
Ooh.
real fun little device. I didn't realize some people didn't know this is an Android-based emulation device. This one can do up to or at least the 4 Pro can do PS2 and GameCube emulation really well. I've been playing around with that one. It's
I like
kinda
the
fun.
color. Is it transparent?
This one is transparent. They have different colorways, but like for these little pocketable emulation devices, which I mean, you can run emulation on a Windows-based handheld or the Steam Deck. Obviously, it's good for that. But man, there's something about having just a little pocketable device that can run even like PS2 games, which is pretty awesome. So. Excited to have this in and mess
I'm
around
going to
with
bring
it.
a Guitar Hero controller in, and we can plug it in and
There
see
you
how
go.
it goes.
Yeah, there you go. Also, so we do have some videos coming up. I alluded to this last time, but man, we got a lot of videos planning with Will. Some of them are testing that I've been doing for a long time. I was talking to Willis on the way over. I was just like, oh my God, I think I have like 6 different videos that I've been doing hardcore testing on. One of them is around the super launches. I know it's already launched, but I do want to get some reviews up there. But I did get in this the RTX 4080 Expert
So
or the
chunky.
4080 Super Expert version with MSI, and man, this is a beautiful design. I love the look of it. I'm going to be putting it in the 4080 Super review, especially up against the Founders design. So yeah, there some interesting things about this card. I think people are going to be curious about this. It's a really pretty GPU. I do like it. So yeah, look for that. And then also, Will and we were making a big list of videos that we wanted to talk about. And one of the things he brought up, he's like, "Hey, what about a video on how to digitize VHS tapes, specifically, with like DaVinci Resolve and stuff like that?" And I was like, you know what? It's kind of on the cusp of our wheelhouse, but I personally want to know this information. So yes, we should do it. So. Will, you've done some stuff in this space already.
I started looking at it because I have a bunch of VHS tapes in the garage that are starting to age out in weird ways. And I looked at it, and like the state of the art in the last 10 years has gone from you plug a VCR into a capture card and hit record, play on one and record on the computer, and then just let it rip for a while, to like, this is one of those applications of machine learning and upscaling and stuff that's actually kind of clever. And DaVinci has stuff that cleans up like analog static and tracking errors and stuff like that. That's all GPU accelerated now.
The studio version of DaVinci.
The fancy
God damn it,
version.
which ping me, Brad, or
I will.
I keep forgetting to.
But also I'm curious what other people's workflows are, because I know other people in this community probably done the same thing. And I hate doing this kind of video and then somebody coming out with some obscure tool that I've never heard of before and that didn't come up. Like this is a contested Google category. So when you search VHS tape backup, then it's like 55 ad keywords deep, and then 15 pages in, there's like some command line tool that does all this stuff for free. If people have tools they like, please let me know. I'm on the PC World Discord. You can jump in there, just send me a message or at me, because I would love to know if you have stuff that you've used that has worked really well. That isn't like a $300 DaVinci Resolve version, although the Resolve stuff seems really good. So,
yeah, for sure. I'm curious because yes, I have a box full of VHS tapes that I really need to digitize forever. I guess step one, I need to get a VCR that's worth doing it with, which I don't have a VCR. But yeah,
why would you have a VCR?
Yeah, right. So. Yeah, if you have some ideas or if you've done this yourself, definitely let us know. But yeah, that is one of the videos that Will is talking about working on. Well, lots more to come in the future. I'm excited. But yeah, we're gonna get out of here. Check back next week for your fix of PC Talk here on the Full Nerd. If you want to listen to us on the go or when we're not live, please subscribe to the podcast version over on Apple Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, anywhere you can point your RSS feeder to. Oh, also, side note, Spotify just allowed for video-based versions of podcasts to be uploaded. Also, the RSS feeds that we use is Megaphone, yeah,
yes.
which is actually owned by Spotify. So we're kind of in high-level talks of like, do people actually want video feeds of podcasts? Like, should we offer that on our RSS feed? And if yes, do you want it in the normal feed so that both the audio and the video version show up in the same feed, or would you rather have it as a separate feed? I don't know. I'm debating around it. I know how I personally feel, but maybe some people, would like to have both on the same feed. So let us know.
Let us know.
Yeah. Also, Ivan just reminded me. Yes, we are now officially on the TikToks.
On the TikTok,
yeah,
yes.
on the TikTok. Go
Young and hip.
follow us. Yes, us young hip people
Young
over
and hip.
on the TikToks at PCWorld.com. We weren't able to get the at PCWorld handle, so it's at PCWorld.com, which actually works as
Wait,
well.
who has the PC World handle?
I have no idea. There's a lot of PC Worlds out there. When I was
It's a
searching.
PC world out there.
It is
the
a PC
thing.
world, yeah,
It's a
yeah.
PC world.
So we're at PCWorld.com. I don't know how many people are on TikTok. I'm on there. I'm trying to understand this whole short form stuff. Not necessarily my jam, but I want to. We need to be on there, and there's definitely some fun stuff we can do on there.
Adam, what kind of dances do you know? That's the real thing we need to get
Well,
into
if
here.
you watch the behind the scenes, I did do some flossing with
Okay.
Ian,
yeah.
Dr. Ian Cuttress, Tech
Yeah.
Potato.
Tech
So
Potato.
yeah, go watch that. Watch me floss. I know that's the young new trend that everyone's doing is flossing.
People love to floss. Flossing and twerking. Those are the only two dances.
We're not
good
doing
old
that on
days. No.
TikTok, okay?
Well,
we're
Adam-
not doing dance videos over on TikTok.
Yeah, no,
You
Adam
could.
needs to learn all
Say
the
that.
K-pop dances.
Yeah. But for my own TikTok, not for the Peace World one.
We're going to
I
get
think
real
it's-
into Blackpink up in here.
It's super
Davina,
adorable
Yeah.
that most of the people in chat are spelling TikTok like the actual way you spell TikTok.
TikTok,
and
yeah.
all the social media companies spells it.
yeah.
Yeah, how do you do, fellow kids?
Davina Duckworth, Gordon will be melting adapters on TikTok.
Oh man, yeah. See, there we go. Maybe there's a niche on TikTok is just like Gordon testing the worst PC hardware out there
Oh,
and
my.
trying to melt things. See that's the kind of fun stuff we're looking to do on a
Yeah.
TikTok, not dancing.
I just assume Gordon's just looking at his holding his phone, muttering at the camera, yelling about whatever, casual carpools or whatever thing he's picked this week that he's going to be upset about. So
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm sure Gordon knows what a TikTok is, right? He's got to know what TikTok.
yeah, I'm sure I've
Yeah,
heard
he
him
knows,
complain about
yeah.
TikTok before. Actually,
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So until then, until next week's show, definitely go sign up for the giveaway, and stay tuned to our YouTube channel for awesome videos. I want to thank my glorious friends here on the stream. Brad, thank you for joining me.
Hey, no problem. Adios, everybody.
Elena, thank you for helping us understand this Lunar New Year stuff.
I just want to say, I hope everybody gets rich this year.
There you go.
It's true. Yeah. Will, as always, thank you for joining us, and thanks for joining us for a little bit. I appreciate it.
always stoked to be here, Adam. It's always good to hang out with y'all.
Yeah. And you have another tech related podcast with friend of the show, Brad Shoemaker.
Yeah, if you all Sundays we do a single topic tech podcast. Last week we talked about PC video game settings. So we went down the list of a bunch of popular PC games and talked about which settings to change if you want to improve your performance, and which settings are important and which settings aren't, and which ones are a little woo and which ones are the ones you should really focus on. And I learned a lot. I think along the way that one was a reader question. Somebody had said that in and was like, "Hey, what's going on with this? I don't understand what any of these things mean." And we were like, "Well, let me tell you." And then we talked about it for 2 hours. So
Love it. Brad and Will made a tech pod. And thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Willis, for running the verticals and horizontals. Get us the hell out of here.
All right, thank you, Adam. Once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. One more time, Gong Hei Fa Choi. When I say Gong Hei Fa Choi, I actually don't mean to say Happy New Year. What I mean is hope you get rich. So Adam, Will, Brad, Elena, I hope you all get rich. viewers
Rich
and
time.
listeners, hope you all get rich. So yeah,
Rich all around.
rich all around, exactly. So have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Oh, I gotta try one of these candies now. Oh, this is not too bad.